This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth. And is it just me, or are you guys also feeling that things are accelerating very, very quickly when it comes to this global de-dollarization movement, as I call it, that seems to be gaining a lot of momentum right now? I mean, obviously we have the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, who have been actively working very hard to undermine the US dollar as a global reserve currency. They're trying to come up with their own, currency that would rival the dollar, that would be backed by gold and silver and other, commodities like natural gas. And it's not only Russia, there's like 40 countries involved, not just Brazil, Russia, India, and China. 40 other nations want to get in on this. Saudi Arabia is one of those guys. So on top of that, like between Russia and Saudi Arabia alone, those two are already trading in the energy sector with currencies that are not the US dollar. Like, all of this is currently happening right now. Right in America, you've got a number of major banks that have recently failed. Silicon Valley, First Republic, Signature Bank, they've all gone down. All of these things are completely eroding people's trust in the US dollar as a global reserve currency. And so this has me wondering, what is this going to do to the precious metal space? Because if you've been paying attention to this channel, you'll know I'm a big fan of real money, gold and silver, actual tangible assets that you can physically hold in your hand and that are out of the clutches of the banksters and the government. That's why I'm such a big fan of it. And also, it has a proven historical track record of holding up very, very well in troubling times. So this is something I'm very interested in. And I'm no, precious metals expert or financial expert, but I can see all the things that are happening. I can sense what's coming. And I know that 2024 is looking pretty bad. Not for owners of gold and silver, though. You see, when these things go the way they're going to go, it's actually going to be good for the price of gold and silver. So, as I said, I'm no, expert on these matters. So earlier today, I spoke with someone who is. I spoke with Jack Hanney of Patriot Gold Group. Guys, you got to check out this interview. He broke down his views on these BRICS nations that, as we said, are trying to undermine the dollar. We got into the commercial real estate bubble that not a lot of people are talking about. This is something else we have to face in 2024. All the potential conflicts coming forward with, Ukraine, Russia. You've got the trust, a currency confidence crisis is happening globally. So as we said, what we're seeing is a very fast acceleration towards this de-dollarization movement. And if you're not paying attention to what's happening in the silver and gold space, you're going to be left far behind. Now is a good time to get involved with that, guys. So as I said, this is why earlier today I spoke with an expert on the matter. Check out my interview with Jack Hanney of Patriot Gold Group, guys. I had that earlier today, and it was a really, really enlightening conversation. Check it out. This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth, and as you can tell from the title of this video, the global de-dollarization movement is gaining a lot of momentum right now. I mean, we've got the BRICS nations who are actively joining together to try to undermine the US dollar as a global reserve currency. They're working on coming up with their own currency that would rival the dollar. You've got oil and commodities rich countries like Russia and Saudi Arabia who are already engaging in energy trade in non-US currencies. And you've also got the collapse of some US banks. We're talking Silicon Valley Bank, First Republican Bank, and Signature Bank. And all of this has eroded the trust in the US financial monetary system. So I really think it's not, when it comes to the crash of the dollar, it's not inevitable. It's not just a matter of if, but it's simply a matter of when. And this makes me wonder, what on earth is this going to do to the precious metal space moving forward? Well, joining me on the line to discuss all of this and much more is Jack Hanney. He is the CEO of Patriot Gold Group. PatriotGoldGroup.com is the website. Sir, thank you so much for taking some time to speak with us here on Press for Truth. Now, I wanted to get your views on the movement of this de-dollarization, where this may be heading in the future. So maybe we could start with these BRICS nations. I mean, what do you make of this? Especially when you see like 40 of them, there's about 40 nations who are looking to get in on this right now. Do you see BRICS as an actual threat to the dollar?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we have reached an inflection point. The BRICS countries met in Johannesburg, South Africa, just last month. Now, BRICS was originally comprised of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So those 5 countries, right? Well, at the conference in Johannesburg, an additional 6 countries joined. So really, more than doubled. Now, there's 40 other countries that have applied, but most notably of the 6 is the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. So now you have Russia, you have China, you have India, and you have Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, 2 of the most oil-rich nations in the world. So China is going to be conducting trade with Saudi Arabia, no longer using the US dollar for oil purchases. They'll be using, the Chinese yuan. Russia, as you had mentioned, Russia and China already no longer using the US dollar. So this global de-dollarization trend is accelerating. 40 other countries have applied. Germany and Mexico are 2 of those. So when you look at the population, the GDP, the landmass of the BRICS nations, it's more than half the world. So really, we have entered the end game for the dollar as the dominant reserve currency. And the Wall Street Journal even had stated as much when it says, we have entered the end game for the US dollar as the dominant reserve currency. And what you'll do is you'll trade in your gold and silver coins for 10 to 100 times the number of dollars that you paid for them, and use whatever currency has replaced the status quo system. And that was the Wall Street Journal.
Well, if this does come about, this end game, as they put it, what would this mean for the price of gold? I know you don't have a crystal ball or anything, but I mean, if all these factors come into play, where could we potentially see the price of gold go in the near future?
Well, let's look at what's happened over the past year. Okay, so there have been 11 rate hikes. Now, rate hikes are typically headwinds for gold and silver because they're considered non-yielding assets. Right now, there's been 11 rate hikes over the last year and a half. Gold was at $1,650 an ounce in October of 2022, so a year ago. Gold is now at $1,950 an ounce, and that's after 11 rate hikes. And that's because central banks like Russia, China, Poland, Turkey are, accumulating just record amounts of gold. And you ask yourself, so what are the BRICS nations going to do for the price of gold? Well, it was already discussed and it was announced about 2 months ago that Vladimir Putin and Russia are considering backing the BRICS currency with gold. Because in order to legitimize this BRICS currency, it has to be backed by a tangible asset. It can't be a fiat currency like we've seen with the US dollar since 1971. So it's widely speculated, discussed, and most probable that the BRICS currency will be backed by a basket of commodities, gold, silver, natural gas, and oil. And if you look at the countries comprised in BRICS now, with Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, India, China, and Russia. I mean, Russia with its natural gas, Saudi Arabia and UAE with their oil, that it starts to really make sense.
Well, historically, in times of trouble, precious metals, gold in particular, have proven to be an excellent hedge, especially in troubling times. What do you attribute that to? I mean, it has a proven track record.
Well, not only a proven track record, let's just take a look at the US debt and the price per ounce of gold. So in 2010, the US debt was $13 trillion, and the price per ounce of gold was $1,000 an ounce. In 2020, the US debt was $25 trillion. The price per ounce of gold was $1,500 an ounce. In 2023, the US debt is now $33 trillion, and the price per ounce of gold is $2,000 an ounce. Now, with the Feds having raised rates 11 times, the cost on servicing our debt alone has exceeded $1 trillion annually. Now, you add that to the $1 trillion a year defense budget, and how are we going to ever control our spending in DC? So as our US debt is skyrocketing, there's a direct correlation with the US debt and the price per ounce of gold.
Well, right now, there's a lot of talk, and there has been for quite some time, of a potential recession coming down the pike. And so far as you can tell, are there any indicators that you can see that would lead us to believe that a recession is potentially imminent?
Well, one thing investors should be concerned with, and one thing to mention, I'm not a certified financial investment advisor, nor do I give tax advice, but rate cuts should scare you. Not if you're a gold and silver buyer, but if you're in the stock market, because when the Feds start cutting rates, it means the rate hikes have made their way through the economy. And if you look historically, after the first rate cut in 1929, the stock market lost and drew down 77%. Then again in 2000, after the first rate cut, the stock market drew down 44%. In 2007, after the first rate cut, the stock market drew down 55%. So they are widely speculating that there'll be rate cuts in 2024. Now, what does that mean? That means obviously that the rate hikes have made their way through the economy. We've heard about American consumers now, for the first time in history, having accumulated over $1 trillion in credit card debt. $1 trillion. 9% of Americans can't pay their credit card bills. 51% of Americans can't pay the bill in full at the end of the month. So their debt is just revolving to the next month at a time when credit card interest debt is the highest it's ever been. It's over 21% right now. So what we're looking at here is going into 2024, when we see the effects of these rate hikes, I think this hope and wishful thinking of a soft landing, I think we're going to see something more significant. In fact, I think a lot of Americans are feeling it right now.
Yeah, I think, in fact, it's crunch time. I mean, things are getting serious, and this is why right now is the time to do your due diligence and get prepared before what comes, what we know is coming, comes. And you are the CEO of Patriot Gold. Some of the things that you guys specialize in for this specific type of thing is 401ks, IRAs that are backed by physical precious metals like gold and silver. It's absolutely awesome. What can you tell people about that?
Well, insurance is best bought before you think you need it, right? And if you look at the stock market performance back in 1929, 2000, and 2007, after the first rate cut, you have an opportunity here to get into physical gold and silver ahead of seasonally the best performing 6 months, which is Q4 and Q1. Also, at the tail end of these rate hikes, the Feds have now enacted 11 rate hikes. We introduced the 2021 Inflation Protection No Fee for Life IRA on qualifying rollovers back in 2020, at the end of 2020, ahead of the inauguration. We saw what was coming. And then the 2023 Recession Protection No Fee for Life IRA on qualifying rollovers, where you can roll over a 401k from a previous employer or an IRA into a self-directed IRA backed by physical gold and silver. And I can tell you that our business has skyrocketed with this administration, with the weaponization of the DOJ, with the concerns over BRICS, with the concerns over ESG 401ks, with the concerns over central bank digital currencies. Like Jamie Dimon said, that a storm was coming. Now, one thing we haven't even discussed is the commercial real estate crises on the horizon. There's $1.5 trillion in interest-only commercial real estate loans that are due over the next 3 years. Meanwhile, these commercial real estate buildings have a 30% vacancy rate. 30%. There's a saying, if you owe the bank $1 million, you have a problem. If you owe the bank $1 billion, the bank has a problem. This is probably why Warren Buffett said that more regional banks will go bust, because 80% of these interest-only loans that, these commercial real estate mortgage loans, these, $1.5 trillion in commercial real estate interest-only mortgage loans are held by mid-size and regional banks.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's going to happen when that, comes to fruition, say Q2 and Q3 of next year?
And we've already seen a little taste of that, haven't we? With the Silicon Valley Bank, those three kind of big major ones who took a huge hit. So that was kind of a sign of things to come, wasn't it?
Yeah, you had Silicon Valley Bank, you had Signature, First Republic, and not only that, we've also seen signs of the commercial real estate crisis. A major hotel group in San Francisco walked away from a 1,900 room hotel, just walked away. And a major asset holder, because keep in mind, commercial real estate is the largest asset class in the world, the largest. In fact, Morgan Stanley said that the commercial real estate crises will overshadow the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis. So a major investment firm, a major asset holder, walked away from a Las Vegas office park and a Midtown Manhattan office building that was valued at $640 million back in 2014. Just walked away.
Wow. Yeah. So what we're essentially looking at here, moving into 2024, is an essential potential commercial real estate bubble. We've got conflicts continuing to brew, between Ukraine and Russia. We've got talks of this, the pandemic coming back full circle 2.0. Supply chain issues could be coming back. All sorts of things leading into 2024 lead me to believe that now is the time to hedge yourselves against all these bad things. So I guess just some final thoughts on that moving forward. Like we said, we know we can't predict the future, but it does seem that 2024 may potentially be bringing in some more troubling times that will potentially be good for gold, right? So what do you think are the best moves to be making today before all this happens?
Well, JP Morgan forecasted that gold will hit all-time highs in the next 12 to 18 months. Wells Fargo is forecasting gold to hit all-time highs. Bloomberg Intelligence is forecasting $3,000 an ounce gold. So is Bank of America. So you go to www.patriotgoldgroup.com or you call 1-800-974-4653. It's www.patriotgoldgroup.com or call 1-800-974-GOLD.
I would strongly want to encourage people to do that. In fact, if you call the number that's on the screen right now during business hours, you will get connected to a live representative, not some computer or chatbot. This is a live person who's going to help you set up a plan moving forward. Again, you call that number on the screen during business hours, and they will help you set up a plan moving forward. You can also use the top link in the description below. This is an affiliate link for PFT. So when you use this to purchase gold, you're not only helping yourself and your family and your future, but you're also contributing to me in the field of independent alternative media. So it's truly a win-win scenario, guys. Don't delay. Be sure you call that number on the screen or check the top link in the description below before it's too late. As we know, troubling times are coming. So Jack, once again, I want to thank you so much for taking the time today to break all of this down for us.
Well, thank you for having me. And one thing I do want to mention, I just want to piggyback on that.
Mm-hmm.
If you call AT&T or DirecTV, or you call into a big bank or a brokerage firm, you're going to get a switchboard operator. They're going to have you go through an automated process. One of the huge benefits of our company is you dial that number direct. And when you're working with one of our senior account executives, you have a direct line to their desk. You're not going through a switchboard. You're not going through an operator. You pick up the phone, you can call, and you can speak with them directly regarding your IRA, regarding your simple cash purchase. They're available to you pretty much 7 days a week. So you have a direct line to our company anytime to speak with your senior account executive. And nowadays, as we know, that's priceless.
Mm-hmm. I must say the customer service is absolutely outstanding. As I understand it, you're like #1 consumer affairs, IRA rated gold dealers, like
7 years in a row. 7 years in a row.
Yep. Yeah. You also have your proven track record. So and again, this is why I introducing you to the people here at Press for Truth. So again, really appreciate your time to break all of this down for us, guys. I want to once again encourage you to once again call that number or click that link in the description below. Get connected to a real live person who's going to help you out with a solid plan moving forward. Once again, Jack, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you for having me.
We all want truth. The truth will set you free.